People can believe whatever nonsense they want to believe, but it is wise to prepare for those things that they do not want to accept. Hello, it's January 2024, and before I get into this video, I would like to thank everyone who wished me a happy birthday. Yes, another birthday had come and gone several days ago, and I just would like to thank everyone for their birthday wishes. Now, this video is inspired by, I guess you can say, a conversation that I had in an online social media group, and the topic that I had replied to in the post really had nothing to do with the group itself. However, I had noticed, for example, some other people complaining, saying, well, what does this have to do with the topic of this group? And I try to highlight, for example, how people in this group have this baseline commonality, and it's okay to be in the group and then, say, for example, post something on a subtopic, we'll say, and that way you find people of like mind more so, rather than having everything superficial. But that's not really what's inspiring this video. It's more has to do with the topic. Now, I'm going to get into something for some strange reason is sensitive in this world today, but we see in any kind of group people discussing things that the majority don't care for or are not part of. We have a small, tiny fraction who seem to dominate everything. And when people talk about these things in any type of group, say for example this group that I'm referring to, that's okay. But when you have someone, for example, who's posting something as a descriptive, more traditional, say with regards to religion, specifically Christianity, people tend to go crazy for some reason. That some reason really is social conditioning, social engineering, but that's a different topic. But what I found interesting is when I was replying to other people's comments, I maintained a neutral stance. I, for example, wasn't supporting any side. I was simply highlighting either misinterpretation, that they were replying to someone else. And well, we all know how the internet is. Everyone just tends to want to fight and argue and only hear themselves. So I was making these replies and comments from a neutral position. However, I would highlight, say, if someone misunderstood or something, or needed clarity on the topic of Christianity or whatever was presented, I would explain that. Not supporting it, not against it, but just from a neutral position. And in fact, I would expand on things, because even, for example, people who were commenting on or supporting the Christian theme in the subtopic of this group were getting things wrong. So I just briefly kind of highlighted things and everything else. What was really interesting for me, and keep in mind, there's people that were, supporting the post and the topic of Christianity, and obviously the atheists felt the need to jump in. I'm just going to stop here for a second. They had the opportunity, these atheists or people who were all for gays and trannies and everything else. They had the opportunity to say, okay, I don't like this particular post. I don't click with this individual. I can ignore it, scroll on, or even block them so they don't have to see any future posts or comments or anything else. But they felt the need to jump in and express their frustration, or whatever you want to call it, their anger, whatever, so they could be heard, which is kind of key here. Now, as much as I was saying, well, this person is creating a subtopic in a group of people of like mind, and maybe there's other people, and there were other people who were posting comments and thumbs up to that post, and trying to, meet other people that way, find more common ground. I was going to stop here for a moment. A lot of people say, well, if that's what you want, create your own group. People don't realize that like 95% of the groups that are created on these online social media things fail because you don't get enough traction in the beginning. Your group just starts to get pushed down the list until it's buried. So it's not that easy to start a group, say specific to a topic like of this group, and then focus on, for example, Christianity or whatever belief system, religion that you want to get into. So it's a lot easier once a group has established and grown to kind of go off on a tangent. Perhaps in time, when there's enough people like that, a new group can be formed, but until then it's very difficult, and people are trying to search for common ground deeper than something superficial. But anyway, I digress. So keeping in mind that atheist types and people who are supporting this Christian post were reading my comments. Now, what was interesting, the atheists or people who are supporting these alternative lifestyles, they, for some reason, assumed that I was Christian, I was supporting Christianity, and I was bashing them and everything else. And I would say to them, I haven't stated or implied anything that you've claimed. On the flip side, people who were or are Christian read the same comments that I was making and assumed that I was an atheist or I was supporting alternative lifestyle and everything else. I would say to them, I haven't stated or implied anything that you're claiming. So the real interesting thing that I noticed is how people in this case, on opposing sides, seen me as the opposition, where I took a neutral stance on whatever was being discussed. We see this not only in social media groups, but we see this in life overall. And where this is a real big problem is, for example, with injustice, even expand this to tyranny, whether it be on an individual level or on the world stage, especially when it comes to the theater of war. We see people seeing what they want to see, and then in return people will believe, and to believe is to make an uninformed conclusion, whatever they want. And when it comes to injustice, people will have this preconceived conclusion of, say, an individual, who an individual is, based on other uninformed conclusions, false narratives, things of that nature. And this is how individual lives are destroyed. We see this, for example, on the world stage when it comes to the theater of war, where the propaganda machine vilifies, say, a country, or even a leader of a faraway country, and atrocities are committed because people see what they want to see. Now, I've said before, even in recent videos, how most people may, using a descriptive, may wake up to one or several things only to slumber in something else while slumbering in everything else. This is part of what contributes to people see what they want to see. And a lot of times the first thing somebody hears, especially when it comes from an authoritative position, is what sticks with them. And this could be on any topic. It doesn't even have to do with, for example, an individual or the theater of war. It could be anything to do with science. And I've said before how practical sciences have been confused with theoretical pseudosciences, which people now accept as reality and truth and everything, to belief systems, etc. People see what they want to see, especially when emotions are involved. And if something makes them feel good, they're going to hang on to it. Whether it's true or not, they're going to hang on to it. And the biggest challenge is, and there have been leaders apparently saying that it's easy to fool someone than tell them that they've been fooled. There's a bit of pride in there. Now, who actually said that paraphrased quote originally? I don't know. Different people attach different names to it, but whatever. The whole problem is ego when it comes to people realizing, oh wait, I've been deceived, I've been lied to, and I accepted this lie. And some people even base their whole identity on a lie. And this does tie into, for example, alternative lifestyles through the liberal arts theoretical pseudoscience of psychology. And you have these liberal arts professors and teachers teaching nonsense. I'm just going to segue for a moment. There was a time where, say for example in public school, you learn the basics: how to read, how to write. You learn some basic history, setting aside what or how, for example, history is skewed. Geography, and that's a whole different tangent, and for those of you in the know, you know, there's all sorts of things that are being taught now that just nonsense. And we've already had, for example, a specific generation, a more recent one, you can pretty much write off because they've accepted the nonsense. This impacts everyone. Now, one of the points that just popped into my head and ties into what I was saying or about to say, somebody said, well, rather than worry about what other people are doing, worry about yourself, type of thing, right? Live and let live nonsense. And one of the replies I had made to that was, the problem is what people do, say behind closed doors or in their own little groups, affects everyone, because the human species is a social animal. And so when you have people, for example, wanting to protest and march, I don't know, for electric vehicles and how not to use oil and gas and all these things, well, they're doing what they want to do. They were left alone. But now they're imposing their whole belief system on everyone else, causing disruptions. We see people being stuck in traffic miles long because they've glued themselves physically to the ground, which is, yeah, like that's a good idea, right? But anyway, you know, got to think where that glue came from, but I digress. So people are just going off on these tangents, seeing what they want to see, believing what they want to see. We have social engineering, social conditioning as a big part. We see ego being a part of this all. We see people falling for or waking up to one thing to sleep in something else and everything else. And this is the baseline that I've been highlighting for many years for injustice as well as tyranny overall. What can you take from all this? Think about what I've said. Apply this to yourself, apply this to others, apply this to life overall. The most important thing to do, for example, when you want to see if some information or something is true, is to use independent, related, unrelated sources to vet information or vet something. There are times when there's a plethora of evidence, independent evidence, which helps the vetting process. But when there's none or little, then you have to go through other sources to find where the truth is. And yes, not everyone or not everything can be known, but not everything is unknown. Something to think about. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Just feel older. Oh. Anyway, cut. Yeah. And people, oh man.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When we die.